Okay, so let's start. Last week, I was still working on the tautology-based thresh test, and worked with Xuehan to address some issues. So the latest issue with the thresh test was a segment fault in BlueStor.
Hi. So some updates on the EIO errors PR. Looks like David Zafman left some reviews on it. I'm gonna link it just if you guys want to take a look. And looks like he approved them, but there are still some concerns that he raised that I'm gonna address. He left a comment 6 hours ago, so I've only just seen it. But looks like he approved the PR. And I'm still just reading through code for snapshots. There's a lot to learn there, so I'm just really still just learning that, I guess. And that's it.
I just have a quick question. Do you think it's we can do something different than we did before because we now we are using SeaStor?
Yeah. So I saw that I saw the email you sent Nikefu with trying to think if we can have in support for snapshots inside SeaStor. I'll have to learn more about SeaStor to be able to answer that question.
Wait, what's this? Sorry,
Yes,
what's going on?
I'm wondering if we can do something different when it comes to the snapshot support in SeaStor with the support of SeaStor.
How so? Or what? I mean, what element of snapshots do you want to do differently? Like the macro level way in which CephFS and RBD make use of cluster-wide snapshots, or do you mean how Crimson does trimming, or do you mean the basic concept of copy on write snapshots? Or do you mean the OSD metadata?
I mean, probably for tracking the OSD, sorry, the object extent, for example, using the probably not.
Well, I mean, this is a big design space. We can do almost anything. So it's less can we do something different, more what is it that we want to do?
Yes, I just want to raise the discussion regarding to how we can do something different than before. Because if we want to do something different, we need to make a decision sooner.
Right, but it probably starts with a discussion of what is it about the current approach that isn't working or is limiting us. Like I said, it's a big design space.
Yeah. Okay. Probably I can.
Careful, I will look in depth into that, and
okay,
we can discuss it more later.
Chumei.
I'm working on the test case for the OMAP tree and the debug. Currently working on the split operation and doing the debug now. And Kefu, can I use the Redos bench to reproduce that issue for the blue star?
I'm not sure because
I don't know how to read the cache.
Yes, probably it could be difficult to reproduce this segment fault we found in thresh test because we cannot run the thresh test without the help of a testology. What I would suggest is to review the login message emitted by the crashed OSD instead of reproducing it. But if you really want to reproduce, I suggest to take a look at the the new introduced feature to run testology on the laptop, but I didn't get a chance to try it out.
So do you have some instructions to write the trash on one server, or can I run the trash on one server? Or it
No.
need a cluster?
Yes, probably.
A big cluster.
It would be a mundane work to set up a testology cluster.
Ah,
Probably the last thing you want to do at this moment.
okay. So that's me. Look at the log first, and okay.
Yes, and then later on, probably we could take a look at the testology test and to see if we can reproduce it and to debug it when it's still running.
Okay, thank you.
Problem. Ronan.
Hi everybody, scrubbing that's what I did yesterday. Still have one problem, one test case in the standalone suit that doesn't work. I'm now confident that it's a problem of synchronization between the test and the application. I'm trying to, what I plan to do is first fix that, but today I will spend the day in reading code, reading PRs and code. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ronan. Sam?
I am debugging the GC stuff. Hopefully this won't take more than a couple of days. After this, I will package it into a PR, and that will be essentially the end of the transaction manager layer. What's that? Is that okay?
Yeah, by the way, I'm still slowly reviewing your change, your PR.
Yeah. So once this is ready, so what that will mean is that from the transaction layer down, add a coarse layer that has many features won't exist. Some of the CRC stuff isn't in place yet, but you will be able to write for an arbitrary period of time without running out of space, because GC will run in parallel and do the maintenance work that needs to be done. So that means that we can benchmark it, which is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to rig up an extremely simple test harness that operates at the transaction manager layer so that I don't need the stuff above it, and I will compare its performance to a raw disk and also this other backend I want to test, just because it should be a convenient thing to do at the same time. I really, really doubt that the performance will be good, so that will be more a jumping off point for the next sequence of things to do. There will be a lot that needs to be improved. Like, this implementation allocates like crazy, so I expect that will be the first thing to fix, removing allocations in the fast path.
Okay. So my understanding is there's still a lot of work on the transaction layer by its own.
By what?
I mean, so my understanding is that it's very likely a lot of work on the transaction or on disk management layer by its own, because the performance is not tested.
Yeah, I meant it'll technically work, and that it won't fall over if you run it for a period of time, which means that we can start benchmarking it.
Okay.
It's the sort of minimum. At least it technically does the things that it needs to do, albeit not quickly, and without some of the safety stuff it needs. But it, recovers from crashes, that kind of thing. Oh, and it needs a disk backend written, so I'll do that too. Yeah, so that's where I am.
Okay. By the way, I was also reading the implementation of HSE you mentioned it last time. That's it.
Do you have any thoughts on it? I haven't looked at it closely. I figured I wouldn't bother looking at it in detail until I get a chance to benchmark it and find out what its CPU overhead is. Its transactions are actually more powerful than we need them to be. So I would give it a 30% likelihood that it just kills itself immediately at that level. But I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I haven't got a chance to performance it or to play around it. But the takeaway of looking at this design is that there are two components of this HSE. One is the M pool, another is HSE itself. M pool exposed to different APIs. One is based on block, another is based on log. The log is basically append only data structures,
Yeah.
That's the fun of it. And there are different type of media type. One is staging, another is for capacity. So that's
Neat.
a different. They explicitly define two media types and use them for different purposes. That's also interesting.
That's sort of what I was planning to do eventually. Segment manager would be the thing that refers to these capacity-oriented disks. And we'd introduce an entirely new abstraction for things like persistent memory.
Yeah. That's my takeaway. And I will continue reading it in my spare time. That's it.
Nifty.
Xuehan.
And the interoperable future, and this is the branch, and I think it's close to completion, and that's all for me.
Thank you. Yingxin.
I have sent out the initial PR for Ono tree, and I want to make sure that the overall architecture and the design decisions are correct, mentioned in the description. And, last week, I have decoupled the tree node implementation out of the tree node layout implementation, and I will continue to do the to-do list in the PR.
Thank you, Yingxin. I'm also reviewing your chain. It's a huge one. So
I haven't really started yet. It's worth us looking at now?
Sorry?
It's worth us looking at now. I'll try to get it done before the meeting next week.
I think it is worth to look at the descriptions and the overall architecture, maybe not for the detailed.
Okay, I can certainly do that.
So, thank you.
Thank you. I will try to pop up some questions by the end of this by the end of the next week. Possible we can have a short discussion on your design next time. Anything else?
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to be a little bit AFK starting from Thursday until Monday, just because I'm going to be focused on studying for an exam. So, yeah.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I missed your last words. Studying what?
For an exam in database systems.
Oh, okay. It's pretty much the same as the file system, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. I have to go on and talk later.
Later.
See you.
See you.
Yeah, bye.
See you. Bye.